Thessaloniki, ancient capital of Macedonia. A jewel of a city nestling in the warm bosom of the Aegean. Well, actually, to be brutally frank, it's more a sort of Hellenic Birmingham. The sparkling waters of the bay may look inviting, but they're so polluted if you went for a paddle, you'd probably lose both legs up to the knee. And as for the architecture, well, let's just say that the Prince of Wales isn't likely to take his next holiday here. None of this, however, was enough to deter your intrepid reporter from setting foot in the place last month. I'd come to witness a unique sporting occasion, the 28th Chess Olympiad. It was an event I wouldn't have missed for the world, or even some more desirable part of the solar system. But even I had no idea just how butter-clenchingly exciting it would turn out to be.
Kalimera. Chess Olympics. Olympiade Scacchio. Efaristo.
Right. Well, a minute or so into the film, time for a little light music, I think.
Some others like football, and maybe others go full the baseball. Now keep a head on what I think could be fresh. Yeah, the game I'm talking about, Nigel, is chess. Right the bishop, y'all take the pawn. Let me tell you, now I'm on the floor. Kick it like it's nothing, I'm just sure as a king. And the man, John Speelman, knows these things. Down to Greece to go against the likes of use of Karpov and Kasparov. Now relax for the grand chess match, the game we call Grandmaster Clash. I'm the overlord that's on your bus. We got you in check. Now listen close, I'm your host. The players won't move too fast because it's Grandmaster Clash.
I can scarcely convey, dear viewer, the sense of wonderment, verging on religious fervour, with which I arrived at the rather fetching Expo 67-style arena where the Olympiad was being held. I felt the same sort of excitement Joan Collins must have felt when she tried on her first pair of shoulder pads. Some of you, I know, will be wondering whether I've completely taken leave of my senses. Spending 18 days watching representatives of half the nations on Earth moving 32 wooden figures round 64 black and white squares might not strike you as a barrel of laughs, but you couldn't be more wrong.
For me, the Chess Olympics have always had three distinct advantages over the running, swimming, splashing about, diving and sweating variety that everyone else seems to get so embarrassingly excited about. One, they're guaranteed free of steroids. Two, there is absolutely no sign of Ron Pickering anywhere in evidence. And three, the plucky British contenders, believe it or not, stand more than a fighting chance of actually winning.
And I bet David...
There were no fewer than 8 British teams, male and female lineups from England, Scotland, Ireland and Wales taking part in the Olympiad. But in terms of medals, it was the English men who really counted. There were 6 of them in all, including 2 of the top 5 grandmasters in the world, Nigel and Jonathan Speelman.
Hello, James. Can I come and sit with you? Just for a bit. I talk, because I'm lonely. Everybody else has gone.
The chaps had every right to be optimistic about their chances of doing well. England came second at the last 2 Olympics, and this time round, many people expected them to beat the mighty Russians to the gold. But they themselves didn't seem quite so sure.
But how do you think about the England team's chances, or do you rather not talk about it in that way?
Chances of coming first?
Yes.
I would say about 1 in 30.
Well, I think there is a danger that you can psych yourself out with these things. Obviously, you get very tense. Last time we played the Soviets, it was quite an interesting match because, like, after 2 hours, we were already 2-0 up, and we thought we were going to really crush them for the first time, you know. And no, sure enough, 2-2 draw. So
Both USA and Hungary have in the past been plagued by internal dissensions, and I think their performances have suffered as a result. And if they can contrive to play together, either of those teams could do very well.
Yeah. Mr. Rubik's next problem, yes.
But if the team themselves weren't prepared to talk seriously about an English victory, their chief rivals weren't so reticent.
England is very strong, and then United States team and Hungary. But I think in the competition for the first place could be only seriously considered English team.
English team is very strong too. Maybe it's our strongest opponent forever. We never played against that strong of a team with 4 players. I mean, your first 4 players is very good, and that's why I can't guarantee that we'll win.
Unable to comprehend how any British sportsman could fail to uphold our great national tradition of catastrophic failure, I decided the time had come to do some homework. Just how had English chess reached its current state of grace? The first great British chess player, it seems, was paddling King Canute, the beach bum. Legend has it that while playing a Danish earl on St. Michael's Eve in 1027, he made a bad move and wanted to take it back. When the earl refused, Canute, it said, promptly had him murdered. Unfortunately, this highly commendable competitive streak proved to be atypical of British chess over the next 700 years. It wasn't until a vain egomaniac called Howard Staunton emerged as effective world champion in the 1840s that Britain could seriously regard herself as a major chess power. And even this moment of glory didn't last long. By the end of the century, Britain was back amongst the also-rans of world chess, and there was even worse to come.
The fact is that for most of this century, English chess has been regarded as something of a joke. In the Nottingham tournament of 1936, the German master Bogl-Zuboff was so disgusted with his play that he remarked, "I'm playing like an Englishman." And as late as 1970, in the 19th Olympiad in West Germany, the English team came 25th, trailing such illustrious sporting nations as Indonesia and Mongolia.
Long before the 1970 debacle, the mantle of chess supremacy had passed well and truly to the Russians. For much of this century, the history of world chess and the history of Soviet chess have really been indistinguishable. No other nation has got a look in as one Russian world champion has followed another with awesome regularity. Only one man succeeded in breaking the spell. His name was Bobby Fischer, and he was the greatest chess genius the world has ever seen. Unfortunately, he was also something of a fruitcake. After taking the World Championship away from Boris Spassky in 1972, Fischer resigned from chess and from real life. He was last seen distributing anti-Semitic pamphlets around some of the less savory parts of Los Angeles. But curiously and rather wonderfully, Fischer left behind him a legacy, the English chess explosion. Inspired by his example, a wave of talented youngsters took up the game, and in 1976, one of them gave English chess the kick up the backside it so badly needed. In the small town of Dubna, 90 miles north of Moscow, a young Brummie called Tony Miles became the first ever British Grandmaster. Of all the Britons who followed in Miles' footsteps, none has accomplished more than Nigel Short. Those who still think of Nigel as a 12-year-old child prodigy might have difficulty in coming to terms with the fact that he is now 23 and recently married. Happily, unlike many former prodigies, he has more than fulfilled his early promise.
Looks like a pretty nasty move.
Nigel is now rated the third best chess player in the world, but this ranking ignores the insufficiently appreciated genius of one Stephen Fry. To settle once and for all which of us is the greater player, I challenged Nigel to a needle match in his Thessaloniki hotel room.
Do you actually enjoy playing people who are not very good, like myself, or do you find it rather frustrating?
No, it's... I mean, as long as people know the moves.
Prepared to beat them.
Yes, I'm prepared to beat them.
And have you been a victim of any unpleasant psychological warfare?
Yes, I have. I don't want to name names, but...
Big players, good players?
Yes. It's actually very rare.
And does it work, or did you win the games where?
No. There are one or two unpleasant characters in chess who try to use unfair means to win the game. Just gamesmanship, things like banging the pieces, really smashing the pieces down on the board, thumping the plot. This sort of thing, very childish, and well, that's life, I suppose.
Yeah, and one would assume it would strengthen your resolve to blow them away on the board.
Yes, it makes you extremely angry. Yes.
This summer, Nigel suffered one of the greatest setbacks of his career when, against all expectations, he lost to his old friend and England teammate, Jonathan Speelman, in the quarter-finals of the World Chess Championship. The result was seen by some people, including the current world champion, as an indication that something important was missing from Short's approach to the game.
I have to say that I predicted the result of quarter-final match. I didn't tell it to Nigel. And my experience told me that Short was absolutely helpless in this match because he was too self-confident. He ignored Speelman as a strong chess player and Speelman's personality. In the long term, I think he has to change his personality first, just to go further than quarterfinal, because right now he can't keep the real great tension during the match, and if he doesn't change, the same will happen in the future.
People were very surprised about the result of the match. I think too surprised. They've forgotten that, or they haven't noticed that John has become a very strong player in the last couple of years. And the difference between us in rating points was only 20, and statistically this is not very significant
it's
at
not
all.
such a margin that can show itself in as few matches.
That's right. So I assessed my chances as 60-40. I think that was an accurate assessment, and on the day John played very well.
Is it checkmate when your king can't move anywhere with that? Yeah.
That's right, yes.
Well, you've just killed me. You've just bruised and ruined my ego. You've all but cut off my penis, actually. No, that's how bad it is. Thank you. Congratulations. Many thanks. Nigel Thought. Thank you.
Jonathan Speelman is 32 years old, he's 6'2" tall, he's one of Britain's greatest ever hopes in the Chess Olympics and describes himself as somewhere between a sportsman and a warrior. Jonathan, do you change a lot when you play?
Not really, no. The thing is that when you play you have to concentrate extremely hard and you have to want to win. You don't have to.
The result of the Short-Speelman match may have been an upset for Nigel Short, but it was even more of a surprise for Jonathan Speelman. Suddenly he was a celebrity, big enough to warrant colour supplement profiles and even an on-air grilling from the very extraordinary Emma Freud.
Interfered with.
You're going off to the Chess Olympics on Wednesday. What does that involve?
Well, and it's just tremendous fun. You go, you're part of a team. there are lots and lots of people from all over the world who you meet every couple of years, and so we'll go and try very hard and then enjoy ourselves when we're not playing.
Is it wine, women and song once the competition's finished?
Some combination thereof, yes.
All this attention certainly wasn't a familiar experience to Jonathan. 9 years older than Short, though still unmarried, Speelman has spent most of his career in cosy North London obscurity. His unorthodox chess-playing skills sometimes overshadowed by a carefully cultivated image of herbivorous eccentricity.
You do come over as an unusual man to be a chess player, and you come over as a man who's very gentle. It's always mentioned that you're vegetarian and that you don't actually like eating people very much, and also that you have an extraordinary ability to talk over a wide range of subjects, and that you bring out the metaphysical in everything you do. I consider that to be not strange.
It strikes me that you're more describing yourself than me. But on the other hand, well, I mean, obviously, when I play chess, that I want to win, and obviously I have a certain amount of violence inside, but I want to use it in a harmless way, and playing chess is really reasonably harmless. I mean, one doesn't always mind losing either. It depends how you lost. If you played extremely badly, you can mind, or if it's very important. But if you're beaten by a very good player in a good game, you mind quite a lot, but it's not so terrible.
Yes. Well,
I certainly mind much less than I used to, I think. I hope so.
Your nickname, once heard around the place, Spess, short for specimen. Tell us how that arrived.
Well, I was playing in a tournament, and some organ, I think it was the Times, printed my name as Specimen rather than Speelman, you know, which is a perfectly understandable mistake. It wasn't the Guardian, I think it was the Times, and as a result, well, it stuck.
Do you think it stuck? It would have stuck with anybody if they'd been called?
No, I think people
felt there was something appropriate.
Something vaguely idiosyncratic about me, yes.
Talk about your sort of routine when you're not in the middle of an Olympiad like this or something. You're a keen member of the sort of King's Head chess playing community.
Yes. Well, I mean, I go there once a week, maybe 1.5 times a week. It's a pub in Bayswater in Moscow Road in Little Russia, which is very splendid from a chess playing point of view, which I've been a member of for about 10 years. And I go there, there are nice people there who I can chatter with and drink with, and occasionally one plays chess.
But I thought you weren't supposed to do this for some reason like that.
Well, he tried manoeuvring a knight to here very quickly, which it didn't work to his advantage.
So you go here, yeah?
Well, no, you just played bishop e7 castles, and then played this.
You're obviously doing quite a service to a place like that as well. I mean, as big a player as you are, by playing with lesser players.
Not really, no. I mean, I'm enjoying myself. It's nice. I have friends there. I go and see them, and
Ian Rush doesn't appear at the odd sort of local football club once a week.
Yeah, but chess is completely different from football, in the sense that all one needs is a chessboard, a clock, and some alcohol in order to play.
Right.
And this is, easily forthcoming. I mean, one doesn't require a football pitch.
And do you actually enjoy your life? I mean, do you enjoy being a Londoner who's wandering about and then suddenly will spend a month in Moscow or here in Greece, and the sort of the odd irregular rhythms of it? If that makes any sense.
I quite enjoy it. What I do think is that it's not very well embedded in the real world, and that it would be nice to be more embedded therein.
Yes.
But on the other hand, yes, of course, I like being able to travel. I'm very, very pleased to be here at this Olympiad. I think it's great. And yes, I'm certainly content most of the time. And being happy is a stage further. I think being happy more than a few days a year is really a bit over the top.
Being on the spot while Jonathan, Nigel and the others made their bid for glory was one good reason for being at the Olympiad. But there were also many others. The chance to observe the social interaction of 1,000 or more dedicated chess players, for instance. As we waited for the inevitable Euro rhetoric to flow at the enjoyably over-the-top opening ceremony, I got a background briefing on what I could expect from an old acquaintance, Bill Hartston, journalist, commentator, and former British champion.
Does the Olympic flame burn hard and bright and pure and clean here, and the spirit is alive and well, and it's all one great chess-playing family?
Well, the nicest things about these events is that you come along and meet people that you last saw 16 years ago when they were last selected for their Olympic team. And you carry on the conversation exactly where you left it off then. It's quite extraordinary. I have literally met people here that I haven't seen for 21 years. And if I can remember who they are, we do just carry on the conversation.
And, I mean, the awful thing about chess is, well, and the splendid, is that we have all these rankings so that people know how good they are. Really.
Which carry far beyond the chess. I have been told, and I've observed this, that if 3 or 4 chess players go through a swing door, they go through it in order of rating. The strongest player always goes first.
That's splendid.
And walking around the hall like this, if one player treads on another one's foot, whoever was responsible for it, the weaker chess player will apologize.
But the real attraction of the Olympiad, besides the possibility of an English triumph, was the likelihood of some truly vicious infighting between 3 of the most powerful men in chess. The main contender in this heavyweight contest made a typically dramatic entrance as we waited for the speeches to begin. Garry Kasparov, 26 years old, Azerbaijani and hugely charismatic, has been chess champion of the world for the past 3 years. During that time, he has caused more controversy and more upset than any other champion in history. The rows began even before the title was his. Kasparov became world champion by fighting a protracted duel against the previous title holder, Anatoly Karpov. In February 1985, as they were about to play the 49th game of their marathon contest, a sensation occurred. Florencio Campomanes, Filipino president of FIDE, chess's state governing body, flew into Moscow and called the whole match off, much to the fury of Kasparov. Kasparov eventually seized the world title in a rematch against Karpov 6 months later, but he never forgave FIDE, and more particularly Campomanes. He became convinced that FIDE was a corrupt and inefficient body that shouldn't be allowed to go on running professional chess. And so he set up a rival organization, the Grandmasters Association, an elite group consisting of the top 150 players in the world, which is now engaged in a bitter power struggle with Campomanes and FIDE.
Tonight, on behalf of FIDE, I welcome you to the 28th Chess Olympiad.
Everyone at the opening ceremony was agog to see if Campomanes would use the Olympiad as a forum in which to continue his feud with Kasparov. And sure enough, he did.
Yet there are ill winds that presume to challenge this force, ill winds that bring ships of piracy to the FIDE coastline.
The language was obscure, but the meaning was clear enough. The best chess player in the world was being called a pirate by the sport's leading functionary in front of the entire world chess community. It was an outburst the FIDE president had clearly been bottling up for some time.
He has attacked me personally ever since 1985. For what reasons, I cannot understand. I'd like to see Mr. Kasparov prove any of his statements. They were speaking of corruption. He said, what corruption? With what money? The books are all there open, and finally, they've seen everything, and they've proven nothing. Otherwise, they could have taken me straight to jail. Let him keep himself to the chessboard, which is his métier, and let the functioning, the administration of the world body of chess to those that know that business very well.
I'm very happy when I can hear that the public threats from Campomanes, because it's my experience proved that it's much more dangerous if Campomanes looks very friendly and does something under the table. Now I think he's afraid, he's frightened.
Well, those of the chess world that are in constant contact with me will bear out that the world champion is all wet. Because FIDE world champions will come and go, but FIDE is here to stay, will outlast us through the centuries. So, young man, of course, has a shorter view of the world. We were all young ones, and we remember when we thought in that manner. But time will cure that, and I suppose Mr. Kasparov is no exception.
I started this fight, and I have to win. And I will. I will, and just remember again, this is Campomanes' voice, and Campomanes' words. And I repeat that this is the time for proposals gone. Now it's time for demands. And now I think we know our goal, we know the way, and I hope that association, I mean professional players, and all people who are behind us, we believe that this is absolutely the only chance, unique chance, to change the face of the chess world and to save the future of chess.
As if one bitter personal quarrel wasn't enough of a distraction from the serious business of chess, Kasparov was simultaneously pursuing his vendetta against the man he replaced as world champion, Anatoly Karpov. Karpov, who ironically takes Kasparov's side in the fight against FIDE, is of course a fellow member of the Soviet Olympic team. But happy teammates, the two men are not.
But between Karpov and me is a big difference. It's a conflict between the personality and the system. And Karpov, I deny that there is a Karpov like a personality, yes. It's a very strong, one of the best chess players in the world. This is true. But there is no Karpov as a person. It's a symbol of the system.
No, you see, I think this is not very correct. Of course you can say about yourself what you want, but I think you have no right to say about another person everything what you want.
Yeah.
So this was not very nice, and the whole team is split now in two parts. But I think if we just play this Olympiad like individual competition, everybody on his own board, then we can win easily.
Yes.
But if we consider this like a team competition, then it's a little bit difficult.
Okay, yes, I agree with Karpov. Just one additional remark, yes. Now we had 3 team meetings, just normal team meeting, and Karpov missed 2 of them. I think it explains something.
Παρακαλούμε οι παίκτες να πάρουν τις θέσεις τους. Please, all the players, take your seats.
With the Soviets' internecine squabbling rumbling away in the background, the first day's play in the Olympiad was finally about to begin. Representatives of every social, ethnic and religious group on Earth were taking their places in the enormous playing hall. There were young and old, male and female, black and white. The only thing that brought them together was love for a game that has captured the human imagination for at least 1,500 years.
That was the C3 Sicilian, what do you know?
1,500 years ago, of course, the chess world was rather different. In those days, if you wanted to bone up on an opponent before a big match, you'd probably have consulted an oracle. In Thessaloniki, clued-up operators like the English women's team and their enthusiastic male coach, Malcolm Payne, made sure they had more up-to-date aids at their disposal.
Anyone who can resign in a drawn king and pawn ending is going to panic when faced with 3 knight f6, I'm sure of it. Let's just see it from the top.
Despite the presence of a large number of spectators, the hall was almost eerily quiet. The only sound that could be heard was the low drone of 1,000 minds trying to grapple with a game in which there are more possible moves than there are atoms in the universe. Faintly audible above the pervasive intellectual hum was the high-pitched beep-beep of Kasparov and Karpov's mutual hatred, Round and round they went, the two greatest players in the world, studiously avoiding even a millisecond of eye contact as each waited for his hopelessly outclassed opponent to make his next futile move. What exactly is it about the game of chess that seems to bring out such extraordinary behavior in its most gifted practitioners? Seeking an answer to this imponderable question, I turned once again to Bill Hartston. The two of us decided rather foolishly, as it turned out, to have a chat in the very same sports hall that had housed the opening ceremony less than 24 hours before. No one had told us, of course, that it had reverted in the meantime to its usual function.
So, I mean, what exactly is a great chess player? A genius, a madman, neither, both, artist, an athlete? What would you say?
Oh, a combination of all of those. Of course, most of the world champions have been certifiably insane.
Really?
Though only one, in fact, was certified insane.
Which was?
Steinitz, the first world champion, who it is said believed that he could influence things by electric impulses from his body and walked around his garden in bare feet to encourage the electricity to flow into his, challenged gods to a match at pawn and move. These stories are apocryphal, but he was certified insane, and a lot of the others have been very strange people. But I think chess is comparable to almost any other equally competitive activity. When you think what chess is and the single-mindedness that's needed and the obsession, really, that's needed. It's an outlet for obsession.
Yes.
Obsessed or not, Karpov and Kasparov certainly lived up to their reputations as the best players on earth during the opening rounds of the Olympiad. Convincing wins over the Philippines and Argentina served as a warning that internal dissension hadn't detracted one iota from the Russian team's formidable strength. The only players in the Olympiad who had attracted as much interest as the two Ks were three teenage sisters called Zsofia, Judith and Zsuzsa Polgar. Constituting, as they do, 3/4 of the Hungarian women's team, the Polgars are an authentic chess phenomenon. The girls, who were educated at home by their child psychologist parents, have all been expert chess players since the age of 3. Judith, who's still only 12, is the best player of her age, regardless of gender, in the whole of chess history. While I was absorbed in a particularly exciting Nimzo-Indian defense, Bill Hartston got the Polgars in front of the camera and canvassed their views on why top-class chess has traditionally been seen as a male preserve.
Other people have said that there is a difference between male and female brains, or between male and female minds, that has been responsible for men being generally better at chess. Do you believe this?
No, definitely I'm refusing it.
When will there be a woman world champion?
Well, maybe she's sitting next to me. I don't know.
And in 2 years' time, will you play in the Women's Olympiad and take the gold medals again? Or what?
Well, I don't know.
Do you have
I think we can play maybe in the Men's Olympiad next time. I think we'll be strong enough.
All three?
I hope.
The Polgars were on course for a medal right from the start of the Olympiad. Our female players, though, weren't having quite the same success. In fact, despite occasional flashes of brilliance, they soon settled into a position well down the ladder and never really looked like climbing back up. The English men, on the other hand, were doing more than enough to stay in the race. At the end of round 3, England and Russia were level pegging at 9.5 points each, and those of us who were proud to be known as paid-up members of the Supporters Club were beginning to get very excited indeed. Sadly, though, it wasn't long before our wild young hearts were reined in rather sharply. Like something out of one of Shakespeare's gloomier plays, the weather took a downward turn, and so too did the prospects of an English victory. There was, unfortunately, even worse news to come.
Hello, Independent. Can I have a copy, please? England have had their worst day yet in the Chess Olympics
capitals C and O, full stop. Apparently still shocked by their 3-1 numerals defeat in the previous round by the USSR, comma. They were yesterday beaten by India, full stop. England will now need some very good results in the remaining rounds to have any chance of defending the silver medals they won at each of the last 2 Chess Olympics.
Digging their way out of the hole the Indian match had left them in wasn't easy, but the team did eventually manage it. The gold medal was securely in the hands of the Russians, and no amount of effort could prise it from their grasp. But as play began on the last day of the competition, it looked very much as though the silver medal was ours for the taking.
England on 33 points are in second place at the moment. There's a clump of 3 teams, Netherlands, USA and Hungary, who are 1 point behind England. England are playing the Netherlands. So, first of all, England have to avoid losing to the Netherlands to stay ahead of them. Also, they have to keep a close eye on the USA-Hungary match to make sure no one scores too many points in that one. Now, since USA and Hungary are both very strong teams, we would expect a close result in that match. So basically, if England can beat the Netherlands, they are absolutely certain of second place.
Beating the Netherlands, however, proved to be no easy proposition. After playing for less than an hour and a half, John Speelman settled for a draw in his game against the Dutch number 2.
Well, I was black today, and we got 2 whites in boards 1 and 3. As you can hear, I've got a splendid cold developing, and I was playing a man who'd drawn all his games in the Olympiad so far. And, well, I'm very tired, so it's certainly a hard match. The Dutch are strong and sensible and won't give us anything easily. And we should obviously be very happy with more than 2 and not unhappy at all, I think.
An hour or so later, however, it was beginning to become apparent that a 2-all result in the Dutch match would be hard to secure. England's number 4, Murray Chandler, was heading for certain defeat, and Nigel Short, too, was in grave difficulties. Eventually, Short snatched a draw, but, as expected, Chandler lost. To make matters even worse, John Nunn, the only England player still in the match, also seemed to be just a few moves away from defeat.
John Nunn is now defending an ending which I'm told is bad to losing. If John Nunn were to draw the ending, then I think we might be 3rd on tie-break, because we might even be 2nd on tie-break. But if he loses, as I believe appears more likely, then we'll probably be 4th on tie-break, which is not a great triumph given where we started today.
John's position's awful, isn't it? Is it as awful as it looks?
Well, it looks pretty bad. Whose move is it?
Does it matter?
If you can play... I don't know, maybe you can play something here. Knight. Looks completely busted, actually.
Yeah.
Absolutely gone. A5, A4.
Too many bishops and too many pawns.
Yeah.
Not a good day.
Tough. Tough.
It looked all over bar the shouting. To stand a chance of getting any kind of medal, John Nunn would have to pull off the fastest recovery since Lazarus. And not only that, but the Hungarians would obligingly have to lose to the USA. Which is where Mr. Chom comes into the picture. He was the man the Hungarians were depending on for victory. If he were to win his game, England's chances of a medal would be shot, regardless of how well John Nunn were to play. and it was generally agreed that Mr. Chom was cruising towards an easy victory. It was all too much for me. I popped outside and bought myself a restorative bag of peanuts, much to the delight of the producer, who said it was time we had some more local colour, and didn't the peanut seller have a simply wonderful face? Patronising BBC git. Back in the hall, yet another drama was underway. The Polgar sisters, having seemed dead certs for the gold, were now in deep trouble. They needed a miracle if they were to deprive the Russian women of the medal which they, like their male counterparts, had come to regard as their own private property. Mind you, as John Nunn was busy proving, miracles do sometimes happen. To the astonishment of all and sundry, Nunn had clawed his way back from the brink of defeat to the point at which a draw was at least feasible.
If White can give up his bishop for the right one of those two black pawns, then and get his king back into the corner, then he can save the game. It's a tall order, but there's some ground for optimism, and the bigger ground for optimism is that William Watson, the England team reserve, just came up to me and said, "Kasparov says it's drawn." He then added, "I don't know if he's just teasing us." But it's not as hopeless as it looks. And it needs accurate calculation, which at my advanced age I'm not capable of. But it's possible.
Indeed, it was. To the evident delight of his fellow English squad members, John Nunn eventually did what no one in the hall thought he could possibly do just half an hour earlier. But the extra half a point that the heroic draw added to England's total wasn't enough to guarantee a medal. Everything still depended on Mr. Chom, who was not doing as well as he had been, but was still in with a real chance of victory. Suddenly, and some thought surprisingly, Mr. Chom agreed a draw. But even this second miracle left England's medal prospects up in the air.
England and Holland are joint second. The destination of the silver medals depends on a tie-break. Nobody is quite sure what system is being used for the tie-break. We believe it's based on the sum of the scores of the opponents of the two countries involved. So they add up the scores of the countries that have been played by each one. So the one who's played the stronger opposition wins, or comes second rather. Since England has been ahead of the Netherlands throughout, we assume we've played stronger opposition. So there is a fairly confident mood that the English have come second, but nobody knows. And it could depend on some match between Andorra and Liechtenstein down there. It has been known in the past that it all depends on some crummy game way down at the other end. But we think England is second.
For almost an hour, confusion reigned. No one was sure if England had bagged the silver medal or not.
Two for these guys.
So even if things turn out badly, you think we'll get to...
I believe so, yeah.
Even the team themselves, including non-playing captain David Anderton, were totally in the dark.
What's the news?
Well, it's very, very close. We're still waiting for some more to be calculated, but it's looking reasonable at the moment.
Can we declare a truce with the Dutch? We don't want any funny business.
No,
analysis or anything like
no,
that.
no, absolutely, absolutely.
It's promising.
It's promising.
Well, but not decided.
We're not decided yet. It was half a point this morning.
Yeah,
half point advantage this morning. Well, we're just working it out, but at the moment they've got the Czechoslovakia in their set, and we've got the Faroe Islands 2-1, 3-1 in our set. So she'll have some news in a minute.
We need Karpov to win.
Well, that would be helpful.
Yeah, come on. Should we go and help?
One result, however, was no longer in doubt. The Polgar sisters and their lone non-Polgar teammate had, after all, taken the women's gold medal away from the Stakhanovite Russians.
Obviously, we can eliminate the teams.
John Speelman, meanwhile, had been doing his sums and had come up with an answer to the question everyone was asking.
Rushing around in circles looking at the results of matches. As far as I can see, we've added 16.5 with 2 other adjournments, one of which is in favour of the people who we played and one of which is probably drawn. And they've added 14 with 4 adjournments, one of which is lost, 2 are won, and 1 is worse. So they will probably get 16.5, and we will get about 17 or 17.5. And since we had half a point in a lead to start with, unless my brain has totally seized up, which is quite likely, we're winning by about a point in this magnificent way of deciding such things.
The silver medals have been captured by the team of England with 35.5 points.
It wasn't quite the historic triumph some of us had been dreaming of, but it wasn't a bad moment all the same. And given the way things had looked only hours before, it was the answer to an Englishman's prayer.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
In contrast to the sour little bash that had started things off, the award ceremony was actually quite a benign affair.
We honor the Olympic champions and their fighting spirit, which will inspire generations of chess players in the Olympiads.
Campomanes refrained from insulting Kasparov, and he in turn went so far as to exchange a few civil words with Karpov. And much to the delight of almost everyone, Hungary, became the youngest team in history to win a gold medal in the Chess Olympics. I'm afraid to say that some of our chaps did their best to confirm everyone's worst suspicions about chess players at the knees-up which followed. But one man alone was determined to spring a final surprise. You've almost certainly seen a polite English shop assistant. You may even have seen a pig playing tennis. But you will never, I can guarantee, have seen anything in your life quite like Jonathan Speelman dancing.
The game I'm talking about now, y'all, is chess. Right the bishop, y'all, take the pawn. Let me tell you now I'm on perform. Kick it like it's nothing, man, just sure is a king. And the man, John Speelman, knows these things. Down to Greece, they go against the likes of Yusuf of Karpov and Kasparov. Now relax for the grand chess match. The game we call Grandmaster.